and we are going to get right into it. So this is our December software updates webinar, but we're actually going to cover a couple of other things related to some tax forms and some of that stuff too, just to give you all a head start on some of those things that are coming up for all of you. So just a quick high level agenda, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. We're always glad to have folks pop in, and it's always great to present these webinars to everyone. And really what we're going to talk about today and the things that people probably care about most are the new PERSI transmittal stuff, the PERSI Roth 401k stuff. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about end of year tax forms because there may be some questions that you have about those. And then just a couple of brief reminders about e-filing for those specific tax forms. So the first thing I want to talk about is the PERSI transmittal updates. And the big update that we've put out just about a week ago is the functionality that allows you to create the brand new files that PERSI wants for their new reporting portal. And the key to this is you need to work with PERSI directly to get access to their new reporting portal. And the way that we kind of frame this particular update is if you've been in contact with PERSI and they are working on getting you migrated to that new reporting portal, you probably want to go ahead and download this update. It gives you all the functionality that you need to generate the files. It allows you to quickly switch from the old reporting system to the new reporting system in our software. And it works really, really well. We've run through PERSI's validation tools using some test data, and to the best of our ability, we've tested um, the new files pretty thoroughly, and you should be good to go if you need that functionality. However, if PERSI hasn't talked to you about moving to that new reporting system, if you haven't done the update, I would advise that you just kind of hold off. And the reason you want to hold off is we are going to be issuing another update here very soon with some Roth 401k stuff. So kind of the general way to think about this is if you haven't talked to PERSI about their new reporting portal, just hold off on updates until we share the Roth updates. There's just no reason for you to update at this particular moment. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about the timing of updating your payroll program. You don't need to do it right now unless PERSI is requesting that you are moving to their new reporting portal. And if you remember, the way PERSI has been planning this is they're calling it kind of a phased rollout. And it starts this month. Where they're going to move some schools over to the new reporting portal, and they're going to do it slowly over time from now until March of 2026. So there's a chance that your school does not get access to the new reporting portal until sometime next year, potentially even as late as March of 2026. Um, if that's the case, once we do this next update with the Roth 401k, you're going to want to update even if you're not using that new reporting portal. Alongside every update, we always have the big stuff, PERSI changes, those types of updates. There's always a small smattering of bug fixes that we throw into just about every release. We usually don't talk about a lot of them, namely because they're often just small little annoyances that don't really affect a lot of people. So the idea here is even though you may not migrate until February or March of 2026, the next update you're going to want to do it no matter whether you're moved to that new reporting portal or not, because you're going to have some bug fixes and you're going to have some new functionality for the Roth 401k. So this morning, I'm going to show you, I have a test build of our payroll program so I can show you how to work with the new PERSI transmittal options. So let me go ahead and pull this up and make it full screen. Hopefully this is legible on your screen. It gets a little tricky sometimes sharing the payroll program on my monitor. So if it's too small and you can't see stuff, someone just yell out and I'll see if I can tweak it in some way. So again, this is a test build of the payroll program. What I'm about to show you is available in the update that we shared about a week ago. So the first thing that you need to know is we've added a new option that lets you quickly switch between the old PERSI transmittal and the new PERSI transmittal. And the way that you're going to find this is after you update your payroll program, you go to options and then you select retirement. And you're going to see that there is a new little section here that allows you to enable new PERSI and 401k Roth features. And again, you only want to do this if you are using the new PERSI reporting portal. Now, the good news is we've made it really easy to switch back and forth between the two different methods of PERSI reporting. So if you download the update and you're just curious and you want to see how this all works, you can turn this on, tinker around with the new files that are generated, and then you can come right back to this options screen and just enable the what we're calling the legacy PERSI transmittal. And we're calling it legacy because it's going to go away. In the next couple of months. So what you would do, you open this options screen, you select enable new PERSI, and then you press save. That's literally the only setup that you as a user of the software need to do in order to switch to the new file setup. And again, you'll still have to work with PERSI to get access to the portal, but from the software side, it's as quick and easy as go to that option screen, turn that option on, and save the option, and you're good to go. So, what does this change for you as a user of the software? Well, what we've done is we've kept everything in the exact same place and to a large extent tried to make the process as similar to the old process as it possibly can be. So, when it comes time to generate your PERSI transmittal files, you go to retirement just like you always do. And just a little spoiler here, this is a blank database with no data, so I don't accidentally show anything I don't want to share with folks. And then you're going to go to your build transmittal screen again, just like you always do. And what you're going to notice now is that these modern options that have been grayed out for the last couple of months, they're now accessible and you can use them to generate files. So the main file that you're going to be generating every single month is what PERSI is calling a wage and contribution file. That is the one file that, without a doubt, you will always create. And it contains exactly what it says. Contains your employees' wages and their PERSI contributions, or deductions, benefits, that type of thing. So every month, you're definitely going to create that file. And same as it has always been, you have the dates, you select your dates, you come to the build screen, you press build, and it's going to build you a wage and contribution file. And then you're going to share that with PERSI via their new portal. That's pretty straightforward. The other two files are situational as to when you might need to generate them. So the first is the employee class and status change file. You are only ever going to create this file if you have an employee whose class changes for some reason or their status changes for some reason. So this is not going to be an every month thing. You typically don't have class changes all that frequently. Status changes, it can happen somewhat regularly, but probably not particularly often. So anytime you have an employee where their status changes for some reason or their class changes, you're going to come in and you're going to generate this file in addition to the wage and contribution file. So you at any given month, you could have between 1 and 3 files that you're uploading to this new PERSI reporting portal. But again, it's situational. So if you have class and status changes, you will generate this particular file, and then it lists all of the employees that meet that criteria. The third file is an enrollment file. And this one's going to be even less common than the other two, namely because you're only going to use this when you have new employees that you hire at the school that now need to be added to the PERSI reporting system. So again, this is situational and it's only needed if there's a new employee who hasn't previously been added to PERSI. And what this functionally does is it just creates a file with all of the employees' personal information that PERSI needs to know in order to add them to their systems. So these bottom two files you may or may not need depending on what's going on at your school. Now, one of the things that's a little bit tricky at the moment is it's on you to know when these files are needed. So you have to kind of remember, oh, did I have a new employee that needs enrolled? Okay, let me and generate the enrollment file. Did someone have a class or status change? Okay, let me build this file. We're looking at ways to make this a little more apparent as to when you might need these other two files. We're just not quite there yet with all the changes that we've had to make in order to support the new PERSI systems. But we're hoping that in the future we might be able to have a little flag for you that says, "Hey, don't forget to generate this. You know, you have some class changes," or "Hey, you got some new employees. Don't forget to generate this enrollment file." So again, just to recap, every month is a wage and contribution file without question. That's the one thing that you're always going to do. Sometimes you will need the other two files depending on the situation. Let's see. Do we complete the wage and contribution for cycle two? Yes. If you have two cycles set up in the program, this functions exactly the same way as it always has. You just check the cycle two box, and then it finds all the cycle two employees, and then creates a wage and contribution file for just those folks. Yeah, good question. So that functionally doesn't change. Just check the box, create the file, and you're good to go. And that cycle two works with all of these different reports. What's interesting is PERSI no longer cares about the cycle. We don't. It's not a thing that we have to report in any of these files anymore. So this is just for you now. So if you have it set up, just continue using it that way, and it should be just fine. As far as I know, PERSI does not care if you have one or two cycles. So good question. All right. Outside of that, there are really no other changes that you need to make inside the software. Everything else is pretty much handled for you as far as making sure the files are in the right format, making sure things are organized in the right way, and should be good to go. Over the next couple of months in early 2026, we will be making a couple of changes probably to this screen here. One of the big things that's changing is the way that they do adjustments. Hopefully you haven't had to deal with this too much because the old PERSI system for adjustments is a little tricky because you have to do back out and reapplies and all of that. This screen is going to get much simpler as far as adjustments go. Really, all you have to do for a adjustment in the new platform is specify the dates and what's being adjusted, which is really nice. They've made it a lot easier to report those types of things with the new reporting system. So you'll see a couple of changes in the next couple of months on this screen that will simplify some stuff. But again, what's really hard is we have to support both the old and the new at the exact same time because we don't know when our schools are going to get moved over to the new reporting portal. So those are some changes that you can expect to see. One final thing that I'll mention, and we've been talking about this a lot, is PERSI requires a unique ID number in order to report in their new system, and it cannot be the employee's social security number. And this is just a security thing that they've decided to do where they don't want people sending and uploading social security numbers in files, which makes perfect sense to me. And so what we've done is we just decided to use the Idaho EDU ID number. Every employee can get one of these. And the reason this is important is we wanted a number that's just not going to change randomly. Historically, we kind of base everything in the payroll program on the location payroll number, which I would say, 80 to 90% of the time isn't going to change, but it can change. And it just makes more work for you guys if an employee's location number changes or their payroll number changes for some reason. You then have to go through a process of updating stuff inside of PERSI. Not that it's impossible. It's just an extra thing that we figured you probably didn't want to have to do. So we kind of just settled on the EDU ID. And all you need to do is just go to the employee screen and add that number to the employees who are being reported for PERSI. If you have questions about that, shoot us an email or give us a call. We can kind of talk you through that process. But that's the number that will need to be entered for when you start reporting to PERSI with the new system. So let's say you have decided just to tinker around with those new files, which is perfectly fine. And now you need to get yourself back to the old style or legacy transmittal file. Again, just really straightforward and simple. Go to Options, Retirement. You click Enable Legacy Transmittal. You click Save. And then if we go back to Retirement, you'll notice that the new stuff is grayed out. You can't select it any longer, and you have the legacy output file. And when you build it, it's in the old style that PERSI expects. So straightforward in terms of switching back and forth. We tried to make it as easy as we possibly could, given that we had to support both portals side by side, and we wouldn't necessarily know when a person or school is getting migrated to the new platform. So hopefully that makes sense and it's straightforward. When the time comes and you are getting switched over to that new reporting portal and you need a reminder of how any of this works, again, just reach out. Super happy to help and uh, have, would be happy to talk you through the process if you absolutely need it. So that's kind of what's going on with the new transmittal file. And again, if you are switching to the new reporting portal this month, I would highly suggest you go download the update so that you can generate the new files. And if you're not getting switched to that new reporting portal this month, just skip this update until we send another email with another round of payroll updates. That way you don't have to constantly update. Um, all right, that's the PERSI transmittal stuff. It is hopefully ready to go. We've done our best to test it as thoroughly as we possibly can, so hopefully you don't run into any issues. But if you do switch and you run into a problem, please let us know immediately so we can look into it and get it addressed for you. But we're feeling pretty good about the files, and PERSI did a really good job of helping us know what was changing and what we needed to do. Okay, I don't think I've missed anything in the chat. Let's see. Oh, I see one. Hang on just a second. Yeah, Roth contributions. Yeah, we're going to talk about that next, actually. So a couple of things about Roth contributions, and let me switch my screens real quick so I could see everything. Yeah, we talked about all of that. We'll talk about PERSI Roth stuff now. So all of your PERSI Roth stuff is going to get reported to Empower. You're not actually going to send that to the new, again, this is confusing. You're not going to send those contributions to the PERSI reporting portal. You're going to send those to Empower because they're the ones administering the Roth 401k stuff. So what we had to do a couple of things in order to support this. One of those things was make sure that we had a way to add Roth 401k contributions to the 401k file that goes to Empower. And so that's what I'm going to show you all now is some of the changes that we've made to support that. So what we had to do was create some new deduction types for the Roth 401k. And again, you will not see this even if you update to the most recent version because we're still testing a couple of things related to the Roth 401k. But you're getting a sneak peek because I have a test build. So what you're going to do when you go to set this up for folks is you're going to go to your deduction codes. And again, my screen is going to be fairly blank because I just wanted a clean screen to share with you. And you're going to just add a new deduction code if you haven't already. We'll cover folks who have already set this up and what you need to do in just a second. And so just like all of the other various PERSI deductions and different types of deductions, what we've had to do is, of course, differentiate between the PERSI Choice 401k plan and the PERSI Roth plan. So when this update goes live, hopefully here very, very soon, you're going to see at the bottom of the list some new options for PERSI Roth 401k plans. And just like every other deduction, you have a fixed amount option so that you can specify a specific fixed dollar amount for an employee. And then you also have the ability to just do a percentage deduction from an employee's paycheck. And you're just going to select whichever one or both you want. And just like normal, you type in the code, give it a description, and just so everybody's perfectly clear, a Roth 401k is going to be an after-tax deduction. So you'll select after-tax deduction in that dropdown, and then your W-2 code, of course, is going to be a Roth 401k. That way you can report it on W-2s. And going to give me a warning if I try to save this. So this is what the setup is going to look like. You're going to select the deduction type, which is going to be a Roth 401k. It'll always be after tax, and the W-2 code will be Roth 401k. You save that, of course, then you go add it to the employee and the employee screen, and then that deduction will start being withheld as soon as you have it all set up. From there, these will now automatically be added to the file that goes over to Empower. And the reason that we had to do it this way was we wanted to be able to differentiate the Roth from the traditional. And that's why this deduction type matters, is so that when we do the reporting, we can specify one column for traditional 401k contributions, and then there's a separate column for the Roth 401k plan. So that's what the setup is going to look like. Nothing too far out there, just a new deduction type, and you just add it to your employees. So, of course, the question is for the few of you that have probably already set this up, I would wager that the vast majority of folks that did this probably either selected a fixed amount deduction or you did like a percentage of gross pay type situation. The good news is you don't really have to do anything special here outside of the fact, just come in and edit the existing deduction and change the deduction type. So, for instance, if you set a Roth 401k up as a percentage of gross pay, just come in, edit the deduction, and change it to the PERSI uh, Roth 401k plan deduction type, and then you save this. That's really all you'll need to do. And the only reason it matters, again, is so that it automatically gets picked up by Empower, and then, of course, it'll get reported on the W-2 correctly as a Roth 401k. So we should be done testing this here probably by the end of this week, maybe early next week, just depending on how our testing goes. Um, eh, Realistically, given the upcoming holiday break with Christmas and New Year's coming up, we probably won't send the email out until like the week of New Year's, because I would wager that the vast majority of you are probably or hopefully taking some time off next week to enjoy uh, some well-earned vacation time. So expect that probably the week of New Year's. I'm imagining not too many people are going to be doing updates the week of Christmas. Um, so that's what the 401k is going to look like. And as far as reporting, it's the exact same process that you've been using to report 401k amounts to Empower. We have the ability to build a 401k transmittal, and after you set up the Roth 401k deduction with that deduction type that I just showed you, there's nothing extra that you do except just come in and build the file. And when you build the file, it's going to add those Roth 401k deductions into the file that you share with Empower. So again, we're trying to make it as streamlined as and simple as possible, and make it so that you don't have to do a bunch of stuff to actually get the stuff, the amounts reported to the right place. So that's kind of what that's looking like. And again, we just have to finish up a little bit of testing there and make sure that we do our best to not introduce bugs or problems, and that actually works the way that we're intending it to work. Um, so that's our Roth 401k stuff, and it's again in the pipeline. It's not available just yet, but it will be here very, very soon, and it will 100% be available in time for your January payroll runs. So, and we'll make sure you have plenty of time to set it up prior to needing to run your payroll. So that's kind of where we're at. Like I said, we're in the final stages of just testing and making sure things are generally working as intended when it comes to your Roth 401k stuff. So, and all of this we'll share again when we do the update email, so you don't have to remember, how do I set this up? What does the setup look like before tax, after tax? What's the W-2 code? We'll make sure that those instructions are nice and clear in the email that we sent out. So again, if you haven't created them yet, just hold off. No big deal. You'll be able to set those up here in a few weeks. If you've already created the deductions, that's also not a big deal. You're just going to modify the existing deduction and change the deduction type and the W-2 code if needed. So again, hopefully simple and straightforward as far as getting it up and running. Okay, that's the main PERSI transmittal and 401k updates that are either released if you need them or in the works and will be released here very, very soon. All right. We are quickly approaching end of year tax form season. And there have been a number of things that have been talked about throughout the course of 2025. And I suspect there are some things that you as business managers may get questions about, especially as it relates to W-2 forms. So we're going to talk a little bit about W-2s. And the big thing that I suspect you will need to deal with potentially is folks who are curious about the overtime rules that were updated with OBBBA. I'm going to pause for a second because I realized I just missed a chat. Um, Becky, you're asking about employees that are not PERSI eligible. Yes, so it will be possible to have someone who is not PERSI eligible and contribute to the Roth 401k. We're tweaking a couple of things so that when you modify employees, you don't, some of you know this, when you edit an employee and they don't have their PERSI deductions and benefits set up the right way, you get a bunch of warning messages. We're tweaking that so that it's a little easier and less invasive. But anyway, the point is, yeah, it is possible now to have a Roth 401k contribution, but not the primary PERSI, we'll say pension plan on an employee's profile. We're making it so that A, the program recognizes that it's okay, and B, it doesn't pop up with a million warnings every time you make a change to an employee. So it'll be really simple and straightforward, even for those folks. And what's really interesting, just in case you're curious, one of the things that PERSI is changing with the wage and contribution file is you report every employee every single month, whether or not they earned money or contributed to the PERSI pension plan anyway. So the wage and contribution file is going to list everybody all the time, which is kind of interesting. So some of that won't matter here in the future. But yeah, to answer your question directly, um, it'll be possible to set up like a sub with a Roth 401k contribution, even though they're not contributing to the main PERSI uh, retirement plan. Yeah, good question. Okay, let's shift back to W-2s. I just realized I missed the chat and wanted to cover that because that's a good one and something that you all will likely run into. So the big thing that I suspect you're all going to have to deal with, at least for your hourly employees, if you offer overtime at your school and you allow folks to work overtime, is what do we do with the fact that the OBBBA basically changed the rules related to taxes on overtime? So this is kind of where things stand presently. First and foremost, and the most important part of this is there is absolutely no guidance presently from the IRS on how to report this on a W-2 form. We have been monitoring this for months, ever since they kind of enacted this particular law. And there's just not a single shred of evidence or information related to how this should be added to an employee's W-2 form. So if anybody asks you, why is this not on my W-2? It's because the IRS hasn't told us or anyone how to report it on a W-2 form. So it's just not going to be there. There's not going to be any fields related to overtime. Nothing like that is going to happen on the W-2 form for this particular tax year. Also, employees are responsible for reporting this information if they are eligible. Now, the rules for eligibility are a little convoluted, and it's really not to be expected that you, as a business manager, are going to know how this works. It's kind of on the employee to know if they need to report this stuff. So, what they should do is just use their pay stubs. As you all likely know, I suspect most people aren't holding onto their pay stubs, or they're losing them, or whatnot, which likely is going to bring up the question to you all, which is, well, hey, I need this information to report it on my taxes. So what can you do? Well, obviously, you could reprint a pay stub for an employee, but for anybody that's ever had to do that, you know that it can be a cumbersome process, especially depending on whether or not you're doing regular paychecks, or if you're doing direct deposit or PDF direct deposit notices. It can just be a bit of a process. So what I would recommend is, if you have an hourly employee who wants some information related to their overtime pay, there's two reports that I would suggest that you run. And I'll show them on the screen here in just a second so you can kind of see where they're located. The first is, there's an overtime pay by pay code report. And there's a checkbox on there that will let you list out the specific employees that earned overtime. So it won't just list the pay code, it'll be the pay code plus the employee's name so you can get an accurate number. The second report is the paycheck history summary report. And what that one does is it lists the number of hours of overtime an employee was paid. And between those two things, that should be enough information for an employee to get it reported on their taxes if they are actually eligible for that particular uh, tax deduction, I guess we'll call it. So, what does this look like in the payroll program? Let me go ahead and open it up. The first report is just under reports, and then it's OT pay by pay code. And excuse me, the key to making this work is actually unchecking this print totals only box. When you uncheck this option, and it's not going to print on the screen because again, I don't have any employees saved in this particular database. But when you print this report, what it's going to do, and again, it's not going to show anything here. It's going to list the pay code first, and then underneath each pay code, it's going to list the employee's name. And next to each employee's name, it's going to list the total earnings or the total overtime amount that they were paid. Um, and you can do this for, again, you can specify date ranges, you can do at a month at a time, you can limit it to a specific, uh, group of employees by the location payroll number, or you can even use pay codes. A number of ways that you can filter the report. But this is going to give you a dollar amount for their overtime pay, which is probably half of what they need in order to report it to the IRS if they are in fact eligible. So that's the first report, and it should get you some information that you can then share with one of your employees who might be asking about it. The second report is actually located in history, and everything's going to run slow because I'm screen sharing right now. But in the history, you can select print and go to reports. And actually, both of these work pretty well. But the history summary will list the number of overtime hours they worked for a given pay period. And let me just show you you've probably seen this report before, but again, it's blank because I don't have any data stored here, but it just lists the employee's name. It'll list the number of regular hours and the number of overtime hours. And so between those two reports, you should probably be able to generate the information that they're looking for, if in fact they actually need it. And as far as like I said, as far as actually reporting this to the IRS, we cannot find any information related to how that's actually going to happen. So it's kind of solely on the employee to have this information. They may come to you though, looking for, numbers or amounts. And those are your two best options to get them quickly and efficiently back into the hands of the employee that's asking for that stuff. So that would be our recommendation for dealing with anybody that is asking about overtime stuff. Generate those reports. That'll give you the numbers that you need, and you can pass that along to whoever might be asking about it. And if they ask about their W-2, it's as simple as the IRS has not told us how that's going to be reported. We expect that to change next year, of course, when people are filing taxes for 2026 in January of 27, but we don't know yet. So that's just kind of how it's going to pan out for this particular year. And again, like I said, the rules for who's eligible and how this all breaks down it's not as simple as no tax on overtime. It's a little more complex than that. By the time you do all of the math from the IRS, it really comes out to about a third of the overtime they work is not taxed. And anyway, you all don't need to know that, but that's kind of the general high level overview of how that kind of works. So that's W-2s. As far as printing them and getting them into the hands of the employees, none of that has changed for this year. Everything's identical. The form is identical. And so the processes that you have used in previous years are still applicable for this tax year when you go ahead and generate your W-2 forms. Let's quickly talk about 1099s because similar to the W-2s, there have been some changes to how this works, but those changes do not go in effect for another year. So there are no changes this year for the 1099 reporting threshold. It's been $600 for a while, and it's $600 for 2025. So when you go to generate 1099s for the 2025 tax year, the threshold is going to be $600. So what that means, any vendor that you paid $600 or more, you're likely going to be generating a 1099 form for that vendor. Next year, when we report 1099 amounts, that reporting threshold is going to increase. And if I remember correctly, it's actually going to go from $600 to $2,000 or somewhere around the $2,000 mark. And so when we do 2026 tax filing season, that threshold is going to increase significantly, which in theory is going to reduce the number of 1099s that you all are dealing with, which should be a pretty nice change. The good news is this is already built into the software. If you pull up the budget program, there's an option in the budget program to specify the 1099 threshold. You don't need to do anything this year. But again, just with the way things have been messaged with some of these tax changes, it can be kind of confusing to know when is this actually changing. So $600 threshold for this year still. Next year it'll increase. And similar to the W-2s, as far as printing 1099s, absolutely no changes at all. Same exact processes that you've used in years past applies for this year as well. So the forms will look the same, they function the same, they print the same. You go to the exact same spots in budget and payroll programs to get them created, and you'll be good to go. One of the questions that always comes up is, hey, when can I get started on this? Uh, the answer to that question is basically for W-2s, whenever your December payroll is completed, 100% done, you could actually go ahead and get started on your W-2s if you wanted to. Just make sure, again, that everything for the calendar year is 100% complete. If anything changes with your payroll after you've printed your W-2s, you're reprinting your W-2s. So just kind of double check that nothing's changing with payroll numbers or anything like that. Make sure that everything's correct and accurate in your payroll program. If that's true, there is no reason that you have to wait to print the W-2 forms. You could literally jump out of this webinar today if your December payroll is all buttoned up and generate and print those forms right now, and it wouldn't be a problem. Same thing with your 1099s. You can get those printed as soon as you are done paying 1099 vendors for this particular calendar year. So if you're done making payments to people, you could start printing 1099s today if you really, really wanted to. There's no functional benefit to waiting at this point. Again, if everything is finished up for the calendar year. My advice would be probably wait just so you can be positive that everything's buttoned up for the year. But if you know for a fact that everything's done for the calendar year, go ahead and knock your socks off with printing all of this stuff. So yeah. All right, let's talk about e-filing. One of the things that um, we started working with you all on was e-filing your own forms. A couple of important notes about this. If you registered, you jumped through all those hoops last year, you do not have to do any of that again. All you need to do is remember your login information, which is probably 65% of the battle. But your login information to the IRS fire system is still exactly the same. Your login to the Social Security Administration is still the same. My suggestion would be don't wait until January 31st to check your login information. Check it a little sooner than that. Now, I will say, as a caveat, the federal government does tend to shut their systems down in the month of December. And so if you tried to log in today, you wouldn't be able to. As a matter of fact, I went and checked the IRS fire system this morning just to see, and they currently have it down for maintenance. So you can't even try to log in. Usually right around the first week of January is when they open stuff back up. And that's when you can test your login credentials. And I would highly, highly recommend that you test them before you're actually trying to get into uh, those websites. Like I said, if you know your credentials and they're stored in some way place safe, you're probably fine. But it's always good just to double check. But that's the good news. You don't need to redo the registration process again. Everything that you did last year is good to go. This year, it's going to be as basic as log into the website, upload your file, and you're all done for the year. For those of you that may not have registered last year and you want to do your own uploads this year, now is a pretty good time to get started on the registration process. The most difficult part of getting registered for the system is A, just the number of hoops that you're jumping through, and B, the time it takes to get the things that you need to access their systems. In many ways, the process is halfway modern in that you do it all on their website. And then it's also halfway pretty old school in that for the Social Security Administration, they mail you a letter in the mail with a access code that you need in order to get it to upload W-2 forms. And as with all things, it's the federal government. And so the sooner you start, the better. Yeah, exactly, Amy. Waiting for the letter was literally the longest part, and it's like a 6-digit code or 8-digit code that they send to you in the mail. It's the craziest thing in the world when do so much of it just on their websites. So the point of that is, if you haven't registered last year, and you want to, now's a good time to get started. All of the information that you need to get registered is actually in our online help center. We created a bunch of articles last year to walk you through the registration process and lots of screenshots and pictures to help you know what to look for, where to click on, and how to go about the process. But yeah, highly encourage you to get started now. It'll make your life a little easier, and then you won't be uh, worried and come the month of January about getting all that stuff sorted and organized. Um, and then as far as the process for creating the files, that's 100% the same as last year. Both the payroll and budget programs have tools that create the files for you. You cut a couple of clicks and you have a file that you can upload to the two different websites. And uploading the files, to our knowledge at this point, is 100% the same. Like I said, I went and looked this morning to see if I could get into some of the upload tools, and they're just down for maintenance at the moment. But if something changes, we will be updating all of our help content and making sure that you are all aware of what those changes look like. So again, good news is it should be less work for those that have already registered, and it's just a waiting game at this point for the IRS to open up those different reporting websites. So, and if you have questions about getting started with e-filing, again, reach out. Last year, David and I did a number of like Zoom calls with folks to kind of walk through the process, phone calls and email chains back and forth. The overarching theme is whatever you need to make sure you get that stuff filed. We're super happy to help get you through that process. All right. Before we dive into Christmas and New Year support, I've covered a ton of stuff this morning, and if there's anything you're curious about, now would be a fabulous time if you want to ask it. And again, of course, you can always just reach out later on if you want to ask questions later. So, okay, let's just talk quickly about upcoming holidays, and what does support look like. So, just very, very quickly, next week, Monday and Tuesday will probably just be email only. Um, we'll be monitoring very, very closely. And I just want to be clear, just because we say email only doesn't mean we couldn't or wouldn't jump on the phone if you have an emergency. Just in the interest of letting folks travel for the holidays and get to where they're going to spend time with family. We're doing email only for Monday and Tuesday. We'll be closed, of course, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. And I seriously hope none of you are thinking about payroll or taxes or budget or accounting on any of those days. And then Friday, December 26th, we'll be back email only because I suspect, or at least I hope, most of you are not working on December 26th. But we will be around if you do end up having some questions that you need answered. The following week, which is the week of New Year's, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, regular support, phones, emails, all the things that we typically do um, during a normal week. January 1st, we're going to be closed, of course, for New Year's Day, and then Friday, January 2nd, regular support, phones, emails, etc. So if you have something super pressing or urgent, I would highly encourage you to reach out today or tomorrow. If it's not super urgent or pressing, you can wait until Monday or Tuesday of next week. Just be aware that um, we're going to focus on email only, and there might be moments where we're traveling for families and all that type of stuff. And then, of course, the following week, everything's back to normal. So, yeah, reach out soon if you have an urgent or emergency matter, so we can get it solved before the holidays, and then you don't have it hanging over your head, which is the worst feeling in the world. All right. I think that does it for today. I know we've covered a ton of stuff. This has been 100% recorded, so we'll have this ready for viewing later on. Probably usually takes a couple hours for Zoom to get me the recording so that I can upload it to all the different places. Maybe tomorrow morning if you need to reference back to anything. And like I said, we will be sending another update email here very, very soon. It'll have all the instructions and a lot of the stuff that we covered actually just in the email. So again, don't feel like you need to remember all of this or jot down a bunch of notes. All of this is documented and will be made available once we send out that next update. So, all right, thanks everyone for joining today. I hope everyone has a wonderful Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And if there's anything that David or I can do for you in the meantime, please reach out. We're always super happy to help.